Imagine being born in Germany, fleeing war in Georgia as a child, then moving to Spain for survival, only to become one of the most feared fighters in UFC history. This is Ilia Topuria'S story. From sleeping on gym mats to knocking out legends like Volkanovski and Holloway, his rise to the featherweight throne is nothing short of legendary. How did a kid with no money or connections dominate the UFC in just a few years? Strap in, we're breaking down the brutal journey that forged a champion. Ilia Topuria'S story starts far from the octagon, in a small German town where his parents had moved for work. But when they returned to Georgia, life took a drastic turn. August 2008 changed everything when Russian forces invaded South Ossetia. Bombs fell just 80 kilometers from their home in Tbilisi, spreading panic across the country. The Topuria family woke up to air raid sirens, news reports of advancing tanks, and lines forming at grocery stores as people stocked up on supplies. At just 11 years old, Ilia saw his neighborhood transform overnight. Roads clogged with military vehicles, stores closed, banks stopped operating, gas became nearly impossible to find as every station had mile-long queues. His parents made the difficult choice to leave after artillery strikes hit civilian areas near their home. They packed what little they could carry, mostly clothes and important documents, not knowing if they'd ever see their belongings again. The journey out wasn't safe either. Checkpoints dotted major routes and rumors spread of civilians being detained. The family traveled at night when possible, avoiding main roads whenever they could. Ilia later described waking up to the sound of distant explosions during their escape. This wasn't childhood, this was survival. Over 100,000 Georgians became internally displaced during the 5-day war, and the Topuria'S joined them with no clear destination. What does war teach a kid? First, nothing is guaranteed. Second, you adapt or crumble. For Ilia, the constant uncertainty built something rare, a mindset that wouldn't break under pressure. He watched his parents make impossible decisions without hesitation. When supplies ran low, they found ways. When routes closed, they took detours. This wasn't theoretical toughness, it was daily practice in overcoming obstacles. In 2009, Ilia's parents left first, promising to send for their sons once established. The brothers stayed with relatives in Georgia another 6 months until news came. Spain was ready for them. The war had stolen their stability, but Ilia carried something else from Georgia, an unshakable will that would later terrify opponents in the cage. Because when you survive artillery fire at 11 years old, UFC pressure feels different. But Spain's welcome wasn't warm. The language barrier hit first. Then came the stares at their worn-out clothes. The family squeezed into a tiny apartment with other immigrants, sleeping on borrowed mattresses. Every euro went to basics like food and rent. Their war was over. Now the fight for survival took a different form. One that would eventually lead 2 brothers to walk into an MMA gym. Spain, in 2009, offered no welcome mat for the Topuria family. They landed in Alicante with 2 suitcases and 0 connections, part of a wave of Eastern European immigrants arriving during Spain's economic downturn. The first shock came at the grocery store, Ilia's mother counting euros for bread, while locals eyed their foreign dialogue. No one spoke Georgian. ATMs displayed unfamiliar words. Even street signs became puzzles to solve. The apartment came first, a single room shared between 4 with mattresses on the floor and a hot plate for cooking. Ilia's father took construction gigs, returning with cement dust in his hair. His mother cleaned hotel rooms, knees aching from scrubbing tiles. They worked shifts opposite each other to always have someone home with the boys. Money stayed tight. Dinner was often lentils with bread, the same meal for weeks. School posed another battle. Kids mocked Ilia's accent during roll call. Coaches ignored him in football tryouts despite obvious speed. But survival instincts forged in Georgia kicked in. Within months, Ilia could haggle at markets in broken Spanish. He watched football matches to learn idioms, repeating commentary aloud. His younger brother, Alexandra, became his shadow, both adapting faster than their parents could. Teachers noticed something unusual. When Ilia lost at handball, he'd demand rematches until he won. During lunch breaks, he organized wrestling matches on grass, pinning classmates twice his size. Raw competitiveness became his compass. The family's routine was relentless. Up at 6 a.m. for school, then hours alone while parents worked late. Electricity got cut once when rent ate the bill money. But Ilia's mother made certain rules non-negotiable. Homework done before anything else. No complaints about hand-me-down shoes. One December, she sewed their Christmas presents, patching old jackets into new training gear. The message was clear. Scarcity wouldn't equal pity. Meanwhile, Spain's MMA scene was exploding. Gyms cropped up nationwide, and fight highlights played on late-night TV. A 14-year-old Ilia saw Jose Aldo's leg kicks obliterate opponents, and something clicked. That same week, he dragged Alexandra to a storefront gym, peeling back a curtain to reveal mats, heavy bags, and sparring partners. The coach took one look at their threadbare sneakers and waved them in. No membership fee, just a handshake deal to clean equipment in exchange for training. Those first sessions revealed Ilia's gift. Georgian wrestling scrambles came naturally, his hips remembering childhood bouts in Tbilisi courtyards. When a visiting brown belt tapped him out, Ilia stayed after class, drilling the choke until he could escape it. Soon, he was sleeping at the gym some nights, sneaking in extra rounds when his parents thought he was studying. The mats smelled like sweat and bleach, but it beat sharing a room with snoring relatives. By 16, fighting wasn't just an escape, it was an obsession. Coaches pooled money for his amateur registration fees. His brother became both training dummy and hype man, shouting corrections during sparring. The war kid who arrived with nothing now had something to protect, a future taking shape one takedown at a time. And when the UFC came calling years later, those early struggles would show in every clench, the immigrant grit of a boy who learned to conquer before he could conjugate verbs. Then came the moment that would change everything. Subscribe for Part 2.